Hi, everybody. This is Craig from the University of Applied Research and Development, and this is one of our veteran stories, Difference Makers. And I'm here with Annette Whittenberger. Great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an honor.
It's an honor for us to have you with us. I'd love for you to share your experiences and why you chose to join the military in the first place.
Yes. So when I was in high school, I went to an all-girl Catholic high school. And so to have some of us come out and join the military was really just not, it wasn't normal. So I had a friend who actually enlisted into the Army after high school. And I was so fascinated. I was like, this is so cool. I've always um, really respected the men and women in uniform, but I didn't see a lot of them back in 98. So all I knew was the Army. I didn't really know about Air Force and Marines and all the other branches that were out there. So I actually had a recruiter come to my house. We were sitting at the table with my boyfriend at the time, and I was about to sign that dotted line, and I got nervous, and I looked at my boyfriend, and he looked at me. I was like, "Should I do this?" He's like, and I said, "I can't." So I didn't enlist right away at 17 and a half. I kind of regretted it, but I just knew that I wasn't ready. I wasn't mature enough yet. So I attended community college, but it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to still do something with the military. And I told my parents, and my dad didn't really believe that women should be serving. And I'm very stubborn. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. So when I finished community college, the university that I had chosen, I wanted, one of the criterias was that they had an ROTC program, the Reserve Officer Training Corps. And so Arizona State University had it. I was accepted, and I did the ROTC program. I thought, oh, I'm going to try it out. I did the training for a couple of years. And then it was time to where they said, okay, so you're about to graduate. You need to figure out, are you going to do this or not? And in my mind, I thought, I'll just do 3 years and get out. Well, it wasn't 3 years and get out. It was really supposed to be 8. And then I ended up doing 17. So not sure. It just all happened so quickly. But one of the motivations too was my husband. I met him my senior year of college, or we started dating my senior year of college. And he had already joined the military. He was a commissioned officer. And he inspired me when he kept getting leadership positions and getting promoted. And because I didn't know what I was doing with my life, I said, okay, I'll just do another year. So year after year became, up until retirement. So that's the short version, I guess, of why I joined the military.
Wow, that's great. It's great that you had time to think about it and then pull back a bit and then think about it some more, and you actually committed to it. That was great.
Yes.
Um, So tell us about your experiences in the military and take as long as you want. And I know there's a range of things you can talk about that are important to you. So yeah, share with us about your time.
Now, it was good. It really was a great experience. But when I joined, I was 22, and I had my first child when I was 25. I got married in 98, and then in 99 I commissioned as an officer. So I was brand new married. And then I got pregnant, and then I my first duty station was Germany. So at 23 years old, 24
Mm,
years old, I had never really left the country to study abroad. The only time I ever left the country was when I was 13 to visit my family in Peru. But to move to another country by myself at 4 months pregnant was very terrifying for me. And so that experience right there was like, what am I doing? My husband was training in Germany already, so I didn't get to see him for about a month. So I was by myself, and it was just a very emotional experience in the beginning. But during my time in, I did have both my children in Germany, and so learning how to be a new spouse, a new soldier, a new mother, all at the same time was it was eye opening. I grew up really quick, and I just had to figure it out because you can't really tell the Army, I don't know if I can come to work today. I don't have any childcare. You were expected to have childcare. And so I had to figure it out on my own. I didn't have family there. I learned quickly how to make friends with the locals. We had a very amazing German neighbor who helped me a lot. Um, we found amazing people on our it was called a concern, Kaserne back then, which is a post, or a base in Germany, to where close to where I was stationed. And two amazing ladies that I'm still friends with today, 21 years later. They took care of
Wow.
my daughter and then my son later on. So right there, that's what made my tour in Germany um not so scary anymore. And so that right there was just a huge, learning experience as to what my life was going to be later on in the military. So it was difficult because in the beginning we can move anywhere, and not the only thing we had to worry about was, okay, who's going to take care of our children. And that, not to say that the only thing,
Mm,
that was the biggest thing to worry about, was who's going to take care of the kids, and then what job are we going to get, are we going to be stationed together, how far are we going to be, where are we going to live, all these stressors. But as my kids got older, we had to think about, where are they going to go to school, and are we going to
mm,
be able to stay there to graduate. So it was just,
mm,
it was very stressful. And somehow, some way, we made it, because both my husband and I served. He's still serving right now, but dual military life is just not it was not easy. um but I, besides the family part, my experience as a leader, as a female officer, as a soldier, that was such a life-changing experience. I got to be with soldiers when we deployed to Iraq. I got to be with soldiers when we went to Afghanistan, and they become your family. It's a completely different stressor than being back here and having to worry about bills. So you go over there, you have to worry about making sure they come back in one piece,
yeah.
literally. And not a lot of people realize that when you come back, yes, we're excited to be home and life is great because we're in a safe zone, but the transition piece is so much different. I remember my mother, when I came back from Iraq, she helped take care of my kids, and she said, okay, you're home, these are the kids' activities, you take over, right? Just like that. And I was like, whoa, I need to ease into this, because I just came back from a year-long deployment and I'm not ready to like drive on the roads. And I developed road rage, literally. It was just like, I had all these little things we don't think about. I had no patience for anything. It was like everything needed to happen right now. And so that was very challenging. The military, they try to do a good job with the reintegration piece, with classes, and trying to tell you to ease back in, don't rush into
Mm,
it. And so they try. It's just, it depends on the individual. And back then, I say back then because I retired in 2016, but between 98 and 2016, we we were taught to be these tough leaders, regardless if you're a male or a female. All those little feelings that you experience, we don't really know how to talk about that. We focus on going to work, being the best that we can be. Sometimes it's a competition because you're trying to be better. You be your best self, and eh, get promoted and all these things. So we don't talk about mental health. And I knew I was experiencing some things, but I thought that I can mask it by
mm,
um I did drink. I did drink when I probably should not have. When I definitely know I shouldn't have, because that was my way of coping. And I know we hear a lot of stories about soldiers doing that. And so I did go through that period where I didn't know how to um cope with whatever the heck I was feeling, because I didn't really understand what it was.
mm,
And so I just went through my career changing a little bit of me every year, because I I just wasn't the same person anymore. I thought I had to be tough. And so I experienced a lot of anger, trauma, um, just depression, anxiety, just all these things that I never really
Mm,
knew I had until after I retired. And so yeah, I could talk about this all day. Would I have changed anything? Probably not, because it's made me the person that I am today. I wish
mm,
I could have been a better mother, for sure, because my
right.
kids are now 19 and 21, but they saw the ugly parts of me, and now they're seeing the better sides of me, and I'm always trying to improve, but I didn't know how to have conversations. I just figured, you don't understand, you don't get it, you're not me, and all those things that we say to people when we don't want to discuss it. It's like, you don't understand. And so that was my go-to phrase, is you're not gonna get it. And it was very difficult. I didn't know how to communicate. And I pushed it aside. And it really, it I know we hear a lot of marriages in the military are not they're not easy at all unless you know how to deal with stuff like that. And we just didn't know how, because we were just trying to get through our career. And so that leads into what I do now, because all those lessons learned now that I'm 46, I I tell my kids, it's never too late, and I'm going to keep going, because there were periods in my life, and I don't want this to be a sad conversation, but I am I did attempt suicide quite a few times, because I didn't know how to deal with what I was going through. I tried so hard to be this person, and because I didn't want to seek therapy, because I was afraid my command was going to find out. I'm not the only one who goes through that, unfortunately, and I hid so many parts of me, because
Mm,
I didn't want to be judged. I didn't want someone to think I was a bad leader, because I was going to seek help. And it was just it's very sad that, and I wish I had an outlet, or I felt like I had an outlet to have that conversation, but I didn't.
mm.
I was afraid.
So then the negative emotions and the feelings, and it caused you to change a little bit of yourself
Hmm.
over time. Do you
Yes.
think that the person you are now strongly reflects who you wanted to be back then, or is it different?
I think it's different now. It's different, but it's better, because I know that I still have a purpose based off of the things that I probably shouldn't have made it through. I
Mm,
the attempts. I was in a car accident. There's all these little signs in my life that I survived, that makes me know now that I still have a purpose. Whereas before, I really didn't know what it was. I was just going through the motions of life, trying to raise kids and
yeah.
live this life that I was just trying to be in. So now I know
Those coping mechanisms, such as drinking, were they public drinking and going out with your team, or was it secret drinking?
a little both.
Okay.
A little both. I would drink at home, and I didn't even realize it till a few years ago when my daughter told me, "Mom, you drink a lot." I didn't think I drank a lot. I had no idea. Um, so sneaking it, and then when I would go out, probably shouldn't have driven. It was that bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've been through this incredible experience being a leader in a military and living internationally and deploying and serving and leading, and
Hmm.
those are two really important things. And now you're back and you're in civilian life, and you've been through some really traumatic responses to the trauma that you've been through. But you're doing something pretty significant right now to help other people and to make a difference in their lives. I'd love for you to share about that, and I'm going to put up the website URL on the screen as well, so people can reach out to you
Okay.
about what you're sharing. So go ahead, tell us.
Okay. So I retired a lot sooner than I thought I was going to. I say unfortunately, because I really wanted to stay until 20 years, but I wasn't promoted to the next rank. I didn't make that cutoff, and that was devastating to me because I thought, I sacrificed so much, I deserve this, and so I was mad at the
Mm.
world. I found out I wasn't going to get promoted, and I had 6 months to get out.
Wow.
That made me a lot angrier
Wow.
than, and so I hated everything, hated the world, hated the army. I was mad. The only way I knew how to cope in the end of 2015-16 was to isolate myself. Didn't attend my retirement ceremony. Didn't I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I was so upset. And I knew I needed something because there was one night at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I was on the floor crying to my friend, telling her I can't do this anymore. Like, I feel like a failure. My kids should have been able to be proud of me and attend my ceremony. I just felt nothing anymore. And she
Mm.
convinced me, or not convinced me, she talked me through it. And she's like, you should be proud. You served, you did it for this long, your kids, and just
Mm.
reminded me of the things that I already knew. But when you're in that dark place, it doesn't matter. You don't see
Yeah.
anything. I knew I had to do something or I wasn't going to make it again. And so I started writing, and I created a secret account. I was writing all my feelings, and just very dark, very sad as I went back and looked at it. But I knew as I started to talk a little bit more, I had former soldiers that I had served with years, 15 years ago, that had told me my transition was not easy either, but you're going to make it. And that's when I was like, okay, I just need to get through this. I don't know how, but I spent months just not doing anything. I didn't even look for another job. I had all these plans, but I just didn't want to do anything. And so I was writing, and then I decided that I needed to do more. And so I worked with another veteran, and we created a website. For some reason, the title "A Wild Ride Called Life" came to me, and I thought, this is crazy, but yes, it's so wild. And it doesn't just apply to me. Like, anybody who sees us, like, that's life is just so wild. So I created the website, and I thought, you know what? Go big or go home. I'm just gonna tell the world that I'm suffering, but and that was scary to me because my family didn't know. My
Yeah.
cousins, my parents,
Wow.
nobody knew. They just saw that I was really mean, but they didn't understand why. And so this was my way of doing it. And it's so crazy when I think about it, because you go on Facebook and you go on social media, and people are like, why is she posting stuff like this? And I was tired. I was tired of being judged. So I just created a website to do it. So it was my blog. It was my blog in the beginning. And little by little, I would have people reach out to me and say, whoa, I didn't know, or whoa,
Mm.
thank you for doing this.
Mm.
And it was difficult for the first few years because I was still getting, comments about, well, why don't you go talk to somebody? And it wasn't just about talking to somebody. I needed more, because I know that there's a lot of people out there who aren't ready to go talk to somebody. So they just need
Mm.
to connect with somebody who understands. And so I created the blog, and then eventually I created a podcast, and the podcast is called The Truths We Hide. And that was like all my life. And so in the beginning, I thought this would be for the military community, because there's so many of us who don't talk about a lot of stuff. But then
Mm.
I had strangers reach out to me and said, "Do you have to be military affiliated? Because I have a story." And I said, "You know what? No, let's do it." And it's so heartwarming and heartbreaking to hear the things that people have gone through, and they just
Mm.
want to be heard.
Mm.
In the beginning, it wasn't video. It was just behind the phone or a microphone, because they didn't, they weren't ready to be seen, but they wanted to use their voice. And so we did the podcast, and then I wrote a book. As if I didn't already share my stuff with the world. I wrote a book. And the book was difficult because I had to tell my family, I'm going to share some parts of our life that you've lived through. Would you be okay with that? Can I use your name? If not, I could change your name. And I was surprised at how supportive they were. I did use so the names in the book are real. I didn't add everybody's name for privacy. I still respect my family members who were part of some of my trauma.
Mm,
And it's just I forgive, and I'm not upset. It's just that was one of the things that I had to learn how to deal with the whole retirement. It was like everything just came out, everything just spilled over, and that
mm,
I had to go back and peel the layers of why I was hurting so bad. It wasn't just the military. It goes way back to when I was 6 years old. And so it was all these things that I put in there. And, I just wanted to provide hope for people, because we all go through a divorce or a childhood experience that we just, we dig, or not dig, we keep inside. And so that's what I did. So now I do what I think serial entrepreneur. I do everything, because in my mind I have to I want to reach as many people as possible, because
yeah,
there's so many of us out there,
yeah.
especially teenagers, because my kids have been through so much.
Mm,
So we need to continue the conversation young, because when I was younger, the only things I heard was, "We'll tell you when you're older." You can't do that anymore. Like, you have to have the conversation when they're young, because of things that are going on in school or on social media. And so I'm just really passionate. It's just my mission. I don't have a 9 to 5. I do this every day because there's always something to learn or something to provide back. So I'm a mentor. I life experience coach, because I teach, how to learn to live with your mental illness or struggles or challenges instead of suffer from it.
mm,
Because I suffered for a long time when it paralyzed me. I don't want that to happen to anybody else. And
mm.
so I just, yeah, I do so many things because I want to save the world. And and I'm going to do it somehow. But I love collaborating with other like-minded and like-hearted people, because we're all trying to do the same thing. We just don't know about each other. So we
Mm.
need to just reach out and do that. So yeah, I get really fired up. I just my family is like, "What are you doing?" I have to do this. And so yeah, I put myself out there a lot now, because years ago there was no way I was going to talk about this.
You're very purpose driven.
Yeah.
And firstly, thank you for your service,
Thank you.
and thank you that in your own coping and dealing with things that you've been through and wanting to be better for the people that matter most to you around you, your family, and then helping other people as well. You're creating something that you never know someone around the world who has never ever heard of you, maybe never heard of the state that you live in, and they just stumble upon your website in the dark night of their soul, and they find hope and they find an inspiration and they find encouragement, and the work that you're doing is really important. So thanks for your vulnerability and sharing that. Just
Thank
as we
you.
wrap up, I'd love for you to share just one thought, for one person who might be at that point where they think, I can't do it anymore, I don't want to do it anymore, and I'm not going to do it anymore. What's one thing that you'd say to them right now?
To give yourself grace. Just, we are our own worst enemies. And this is like three things. Give yourself grace, and it's okay to not be okay. We forget that all the time. And that, yeah, we have to keep remembering that.
Mm, it's really good. I'm going to put that on the screen to make sure people see it. Give yourself grace. Annette, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you being with us on our Veteran Stories. For those of you that are watching the recording on LinkedIn or on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Facebook, on anywhere this platform, a platform where you might see the recording, we've got the website on the screen right now, and I've got the website link as well in the show notes that are with the video so that you can reach out to Annette and connect with her as well if you'd like to do that. Saritha from Africa actually posted a comment, which I put on the screen earlier as well, saying that wearing the uniform is addictive. And we certainly get that. So thanks everyone for being with us. Look forward to seeing you again on another Veteran Stories.